If you've ever thought about publishing a coloring book, got a little bit excited about the idea, and then just immediately shut it down in your head because you've told yourself you're not artistic, you can't draw, or you wouldn't even know where to start, I want you to keep watching this video because that exact mindset is actually the thing that is stopping you. Coloring books are actually one of the easiest books to publish. And I don't mean easy in a motivational, fluffy kind of way. I mean, they're structurally easy. There are fewer moving parts, less that can go wrong, and way less pressure than most people think. And the biggest misconception that I see all the time is that you need to be an illustrator or naturally creative to make one, and that just isn't the case at all. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 clear steps to publishing your very first coloring book. We'll talk about why coloring books are so profitable, how to decide what kind of coloring book to create without overthinking it, and then I'll show you how to actually create your own coloring pages without hiring an illustrator or using AI-generated images. You can do it yourself on an iPad, even if you have never drawn anything before in your life. And then finally, we will go through publishing and marketing it without turning it into this big, overwhelming project. All right, let's get into it. If you are new here, my name is Caroline and I have been self-publishing books on Amazon KDP for over 7 years. And on this channel, through these videos, I show you how to do the same. Now, the first thing that I do want to talk about is that coloring books are not really an art product. Yes, there is obviously art involved, but people aren't buying coloring books because they're analyzing the line quality or the artistic talent. That's just not how customers think. People buy coloring books because they want something relaxing to do in the evenings, something they can just sit down with while they're watching TV, something that helps them switch off, and something easy that they can give to a child as a gift without thinking too hard about it. They're buying a feeling, not a masterpiece. And this is why coloring books work so well on Amazon in particular. They're low priced, so people don't really hesitate to buy them. They're repeat use products, which means someone can get value out of the same book over and over again. And they appeal to a huge range of people, from kids to adults who haven't colored anything since they were in school, but then suddenly decide that they want something calming to do at night. Another reason that these kinds of books are beginner friendly for self-publishers is because they don't rely on writing like a high content book, like a fiction novel or a non-fiction book. You're not worrying about grammar or tone or story structure or whether something sounds clever or funny enough. You're just creating visual pages that serve a very specific purpose. Now, here's where most people go wrong, and this is very important. They start by asking themselves, what kind of coloring book do I want to create? Or what would be fun for me to create? And that's the wrong place to start. A better question is, who is this coloring book for? And what experience are they actually looking for when they open it? Because you're not creating for art's sake. You're creating 30, 40, maybe 50 pages of something someone wants to come back to again and again. Once you understand that, a lot of the pressure goes away. And one more thing before we move on, simple coloring books often sell better than really complex, detailed ones. That sounds a little bit backwards, but it is actually true. A lot of customers actually avoid those super detailed pages because they just feel overwhelming, not relaxing. If we have a quick look on Amazon, I've just searched for the very broad keyword coloring book, and you'll see straight away that most of the best-selling coloring books are these bold and easy style of coloring books, which have thick, bold lines, lots of white space, very, very simple images to color in. And like I say, these are some of the very best-selling books across the whole of Amazon. This Coco YO coloring book has a bestseller rank of 29 out of all books on Amazon, and it is selling tens of thousands of copies every single month. It's making over $60,000 per month in royalties. There is also this bold and easy ocean scene coloring book, which has really simple, really bold and easy coloring images within it. This one has a bestseller rank of 273. And then this one here is a bold and easy self-love coloring book. The images themselves are really simple, really basic. And you can see here in the examples, you leave it up to the customer to make them as detailed and creative as they want them to be. This one currently has a bestseller rank of 138, and it's making around $30,000 per month in royalties for that self-publisher. These are not highly artistic, complicated coloring pages, and that is going to matter a lot when we get to the illustration step of our coloring book. So how do you decide what kind of coloring book to create? Instead of throwing just a long list of niche ideas at you, I want to break this down in a way that's easier to think about, especially for a first book. Think in terms of formats, not niches. There are 3 main types of coloring books that sell consistently and also consistently sell well, and almost every successful coloring book fits into one of these. First, bold and simple coloring books. We just looked at a few examples, but these have the thick lines, big shapes, not a lot of detail. They're perfect for kids, beginners, and adults who want something relaxing without having to concentrate too hard. A lot of people assume that the more detail automatically means better quality, but with coloring books, that is actually often not true at all. Simple pages are more approachable, and they're also much easier to create, which makes them perfect for your first book. Second, aesthetic or vibe-based coloring books. These are the books where people are really buying a mood. Here are a couple examples. We've got the Fuzzy Cougar Super Cute Coloring Book, cozy themes, cute characters, seasonal vibes, calming imagery, calming color palettes. Think less about technical perfection and more about consistency. Same style, same feeling, same types of images throughout the book. These do really well because people emotionally connect with them. So if someone really likes one page, it's pretty likely that they're going to love the whole book. And once you get the hang of creating really super simple, basic, bold and easy coloring books, you can actually move very easily into these ones if you want. And third, purpose-driven coloring books. These are books created for a specific reason, like relaxation, mindfulness, focus, or even educational use. They don't need to be fancy. They just need to do their job well. Now, when you're choosing what to make for your first coloring book, here's the filter that I want you to use, because this one question will save you a lot of frustration. Ask yourself, if I had to create 30 pages of this, could I actually finish it without quitting halfway through? Not, is this trendy? Not, will this make a lot of money? But can I realistically sit down and create this without hating my life by page 10? Your first book is just about finishing. Everything else comes later. So once you've decided what kind of coloring book you're going to make, we can move on to step 2, which is actually creating the coloring book. And this is actually going to involve you illustrating your very own coloring book. And this is the step where most people think they're going to get stuck. So let me say this right now. You do not need to be an illustrator. You do not need to know how to draw. You don't need to sketch directly from your imagination. You don't need to be creative in the way that people would usually mean it. And you definitely don't need to be good at art. I am none of those things, but I have been able to start illustrating my own coloring books. It is very simple. So please keep watching so you can see the exact steps, how anybody can do this. What you need is just a simple, repeatable way to create clean outlines. That is it. And like I say, this is something that I have taught myself over the last year or so that I don't have to rely on AI or hiring illustrators to create my coloring pages if I don't want to. Yes, it may be a little bit more time consuming, but at the end of it all, you end up with something that you created yourself. So no more worrying about whether AI has copied somebody else or whether you actually have the right license to use it. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this for yourself. And for this, you will need an iPad, an Apple Pencil, and the Procreate app. That is it. No fancy setup. Procreate is very cheap and you only pay for it once. Now, first of all, you do need to decide if you do want to start creating any drawings from scratch or whether you want to use a reference image. I personally always use reference images. And if you are brand new, it is best to use reference images. So you will need to find some stock images to use to base your coloring pages off. You can use something free like Unsplash or a paid platform for more variety of images. I would say just make sure the reference image you choose does have commercial usage rights just to be safe. We aren't going to be using anyone's exact image, but I still like to make sure I'm not using anyone's personal images. So don't just go onto Google Images and take an image from there. I found this image on FreePic that I'm going to use for this tutorial. It's one of my favorite stock image websites. And don't be fooled by the name FreePic. It is not free. You do have to pay a monthly or a yearly fee to use it. First, when you get into Procreate, we need to set up a canvas. You want to set up your canvas properly because your pages are going to be printed, not just viewed on a screen. You want a high resolution canvas, black and white, with enough space around the edges so nothing gets cut off when the book is printed. I always set my canvas up to be 2048 pixels by 2048 pixels with at least a 300 dpi resolution so that it is high enough quality for printing. Don't be scared by words like dpi and pixels. It is very self-explanatory when you get into Procreate, and it's not that hard to get a hang of. I currently set my coloring books up in that size as a square format because it is the most popular size of coloring book at the moment. And once that's done, you're going to work in pure black pen or brush on a white background. No gray, no shading, no color. Coloring books live and die by clean outlines. Now, if you are using a reference image, bring it into the project. And if you are watching this and thinking, I like this, but I wish I actually knew what I was doing in Procreate instead of guessing, this is where learning properly helps a lot. I was actually able to teach myself to create coloring images on Procreate by using Skillshare. Skillshare is an on-learning platform with thousands of classes in illustration, design, self-publishing, marketing, productivity, entrepreneurship, literally everything that you could possibly need to grow your book business. And I learned how to use Procreate to my advantage so that I have total control over my coloring book images. And you might already know that I do publish my own children's picture books, and I'm learning even more through the classes on Skillshare to be able to use Procreate to illustrate my own books if I want to. To help me do that, I've been taking a class called Intro to Procreate, illustrating on the iPad, run by Brooke Glazier, and now I'm able to create illustrations for all my books rather than paying someone to do it for me or having to outsource the images from stock image websites, which can get pretty pricey. That's why I love Skillshare. Instead of bouncing around random tutorials, you can sit down, follow a short, structured class, especially ones specifically on Procreate. There are also classes that help walk you through brushes, canvas setup, clean line work, and creating repeatable designs, which is exactly what you want for coloring books. All Skillshare classes are taught by amazing world-class creatives like professional illustrators, renowned graphic designers, and successful entrepreneurs so that you can learn directly from real, super talented and successful creatives. So whether you do want to learn how to use Procreate to create coloring book images, or you want to learn social media marketing for your books, or you want to learn how to use your time more productively, whatever it is, continuously improving and learning new skills when it comes to all facets of your business will help set you apart from the rest, and Skillshare can help you with all of it. This month, the first 500 people to use the link down in the description box below or the QR code on the screen will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare where you can get access to the entire library of classes and try out something new today. But let's get back to my coloring book image. And what I'm doing here is I'm adding a layer, which is what I'm actually going to be drawing on. I'm going to fill the layer in white because all my coloring book images have a white background. I drop the opacity of that layer, so that means you can see through the layer. And that is so that I can see the reference image behind it, and then I can start doing the line work. This part is way more easy than people make it seem. Good coloring pages have thick, consistent lines, closed shapes, so color doesn't bleed visually, and plenty of white space. White space isn't empty, it's what makes coloring enjoyable. Thin lines, tiny details, and crowded pages are usually the reason people will maybe color one page and then never touch the book again. So you just want to go into your brushes and pick a nice clean brush to use. I usually use monoline, and then just play around with the thickness of the lines. You don't want it too thick, but also not too thin. You can also play around with these settings, which help the smoothness of the lines. So you don't have to worry about having too steady of a hand. And then we trace. Remember, we are not sitting here drawing freehand masterpieces. We're designing outlines, not illustrating works of art. So all I'm doing here is tracing over the main parts of the image that I want to include in the coloring page. Don't worry too much about whether your lines meet up or anything like that, because we can clean that all up later. Okay, so now I've done sort of the main parts of this image. So what I can do now is I can go into the eraser, or you could even just change your pen to white, and you can go around and clean up where any of the lines have gone past too far, or if you haven't quite joined a line up enough, you can fill that in a bit and just clean everything up as best as you can. And all in all, it took me maybe 10 to 15 minutes to create this image. So this is the final image. Pretty simple drawing, right? But it is perfect for a bold and easy coloring book. So once you have a few pages done, the goal here is consistency, not variety. You don't necessarily need every page to be completely different. In fact, that often makes the book feel a bit messy. Aim for around 30 to 40 pages for your first book. By 30 to 40 pages, I mean 30 to 40 coloring pages. You will then have a blank page on the back of each coloring image. So in total, your book is going to technically have maybe 60 to 80 pages in total. Now, a few common mistakes that I do see all the time is adding too much detail, changing styles halfway through, constantly starting over, or trying to make every single page feel special. It doesn't need to be special, it needs to be finished. Once you have completed all the images that you want to have in your coloring book, just add them to a document, which can be in Canva, it can be in Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint, it can be in Google Docs, whatever program you have access to and know how to use. You just want to add all the coloring page images to it, add a blank page between each one, because in a coloring book, you don't want coloring images back to back, and then save it as a PDF. And then you have a coloring book interior that is ready to upload into Amazon KDP. Now, the next step is creating a cover. I do always highly recommend you have someone create the cover for you, because it is such an important part, maybe the most important part that you need to get absolutely right. It is what makes customers stop scrolling and click on your book in the sea of thumbnails in the search results when someone is looking for a coloring book. You can buy covers very affordably on places like Fiverr. Your cover doesn't need to be fancy, it needs to be clear and it needs to stand out. Somebody should be able to look at it for literally 2 seconds and understand exactly what type of coloring book it is and who it is for. Now, let's talk about getting this published, because this part really doesn't need to be as complicated as people make it out to be. You need 3 things: your interior file, your cover file, and your book's details. That is it. And pricing is another area where people tend to overthink things. Your first coloring book is not about squeezing maximum profit out of it. It's about momentum. Price it reasonably so people don't hesitate. Just do some research on Amazon and look at what other coloring books similar to yours are selling for and price the same. Don't price lower, because that indicates low quality and customers are not looking for the cheapest coloring book. But also don't price too high, because you'll price yourself out of the market. At the moment, these types of coloring books are selling around $9.99. So just stick with that. Stick with what the niche is generally priced at. As for marketing, the honest truth is that you are going to have to get your book out there in front of people's eyes to help get those initial sales on Amazon. You can run some Amazon ads. It's the quickest way to start getting traction if you do set aside a budget for that. You don't have to spend a lot. You can start with maybe $5 a day, and that can really help get you started. If you would rather use free methods to promote your books, then get onto TikTok and start sharing your coloring book there. Lots of coloring books have gone viral on TikTok, turning them into bestsellers on Amazon. All you need to do is create videos showing your coloring book, showing you coloring your coloring book. You do not need to have your face or your voice in these videos. You can create videos just flicking through the different pages of your coloring books. You can color some pages in and just show them. You can just create a video of you actually picking a page out of your coloring book and coloring it in. That's what all of these coloring book videos basically do. Your main job when you're promoting your book is to make sure the title is clear, the cover matches the vibe, and the description explains who the book is for and why they're going to enjoy it. Your very first coloring book does not need to be perfect, and it doesn't need to go viral. It needs really just to prove something to you. It needs to prove that you can take an idea, turn it into a real product, and actually publish it. Once you've done that once, everything else gets easier. And that's when you can start thinking about books going viral and making thousands of dollars in royalties. Coloring books work because they're simple. And if you can keep things simple and actually finish what you start, you are already ahead of most people. Now, if you did enjoy this video, YouTube thinks that you might like these ones too. So please go check them out to learn more about self-publishing your own books on Amazon KDP. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.